Welcome to the Influence and Inspire podcast, episode 2. And I'm delighted to say that I have Bola Abisogun on my show today, who is the director of Urbanis, which is a firm of chartered surveyors and construction managers. Hello, Bola.
Hi, Ryan.
How you
How
doing?
are you? I'm good, thanks. Good, thanks. Thanks for the invitation.
Yes, thanks for coming on the show. So first of all, I suppose I'd like to ask you, what made you set up Urbanis and this organisation for surveyors and construction managers? What was your motivation?
What was my motivation? 2002, 2003. I felt displaced in the industry, to be honest with you,
Okay.
and I feverishly needed to create an alternative to the corporate world to survive. And my first love is and was construction. And I thought I'd become an educated contractor, which is what I became known as in the market.
Okay.
But yeah, it was literally because I felt displaced in the surveying profession at that time, and I just needed to do something different, but under my own control.
So when you say displaced, what do you actually mean? So what feelings did you have at that time? What kind of issues were coming up? What kind of challenges did you face?
Wide and varied, but in a nutshell, I got qualified in 1999.
Okay.
And prior to that, I'd graduated in 1994. Now, between 94 and 99, my objective was to get qualified.
Yeah.
I didn't really care where or how. I just needed to acquire the knowledge to become chartered,
Okay.
which I did, thankfully, over a period of 5 years. But within the 5-year journey, there were a lot of cultural challenges.
Okay.
And that's probably the best way for me to describe the day-to-day challenge, which was literally to conform and to adhere to, which is fine, but I didn't feel comfortable. So as soon as I got qualified in 99, I decided very quickly that I needed to do something differently if I was going to maintain my sanity.
Okay, and that's fair enough and understandable. So, in terms of setting up your business or setting up Urbanis, what are a few pointers that you might give the audience when setting up their own business? Just a couple of pointers that you could let us know about.
Okay, well, first and foremost, forget the money.
Okay.
Now that might sound very, very unnerving, but you've got to find your passion.
Okay.
You have to go into an area of business that you can sustain, even if the revenue streams aren't as dependable as you would like. Meaning, on your dark days, you have to be able to continue. Which means if you would tap into your own passion,
Yeah.
and align it to your genuine interest, you can monetize it quite quickly, or quite easily, rather. But if you chase the money, when things don't look good, you may become disillusioned and look elsewhere.
Okay.
So the first thing I would say to anybody looking to start a business is to make sure it's conducive to your natural skill set and your passion, which is probably the hardest thing anyone can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And aside from that, try and develop a business that relates to your core values. Urbanist for me was an extension of my desire to enhance and increase diversity, whether it be in the trades or the professions. So by definition, urbanist means urban inclusive solutions. The I means inclusive, the S means solutions.
Okay.
Urban being urban inner city. Born and raised in Hackney, I'm fully aware of what the word urban can mean.
Yeah.
But my take on it was I'd like to be part of the solution for urban inner city areas. And essentially, Urbanis delivers public sector refurbishment work in existing housing stock across London, predominantly in Lambeth and Hackney.
Okay.
But so, I'm wrapping up my skills as a surveyor, my love as construction, and my aspiration to engage with those hard to reach, predominantly young black men
Yeah.
in urban inner city areas. So it works for me.
Okay. Okay. So just moving on from there. So in 2010, you were appointed the chairman of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, which then formed the Construction Leadership and Diversity Forum,
Sure.
which came out of an inquiry into race discrimination in the construction industry.
Yeah.
So could you tell me a bit more about the Construction Leadership Diversity Forum?
Yeah. At the time, 2009, it was literally being championed as a cohort of industry leaders. So when I was asked to make an expression of interest, I was humbled because I was thinking, who else is going to be in this task group?
Yeah.
And essentially, you had all the professional bodies, Royal Institution, Chartered Surveyors, Royal Institution, British Architects, Civil Engineering. You had Construction Products Association, Construction Industry Council, Federation of Master Builders. So you had the various trade bodies, and you had 3 or 4 what were once referred to as quangos.
Yeah.
And I then realized I was the only independent business owner around the table.
Okay.
And from that perspective, I was able to inject and promote the reality of the discussion. And this discussion was generally hypothetical, based on statistics and research. And I would often interject and say, well, look, great idea, but in reality, it's going to do this or it's going to do that. And ultimately, I began to chair the meetings because they recognized the value I was given from a grassroots level, which, in that kind of composition of individuals, is rare. So, it was a good experience,
Okay.
2-3 years. But, an array of people from various spheres of professionalism. But I was the only practitioner around the table, which was interesting.
Okay. All right. So tell me about young black men and the US tour of themselves. Just explain a bit about what that is.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, the trip to Atlanta, it was a gesture.
Okay.
It wasn't planned. It wasn't. It's not indicative of what I do or what we do as a business.
Right.
I'm based in Hackney, and Hackney CVS, charitable organisation, works very closely with London Borough of Hackney, had a project where they were reaching out to young black men in Hackney that had become disillusioned, disenfranchised, etc., etc. And not lost hope, but were very close.
Okay.
So I was asked to participate in my capacity as a local businessman, born and raised in the borough, who could ultimately relate to these young men.
Right.
And over a period of 14 months, we had monthly sessions of roughly 2 to 3 hour durations where we'd talk and discuss issues that were affecting them.
Okay.
So I began to build a rapport with these guys, and they were at their peak 25 young black men.
Oh wow.
Who revolved on a maybe 10 to 12 sitting in the meeting type scenario events.
Yeah.
But in essence, there were 25 guys that were involved in this thing. All different kinds of backgrounds.
Yeah.
Some graduates, some undergrads.
Yeah.
Quite a few of them in and around the area of Hackney, doing things that they probably didn't really want to do anyway.
Okay.
So we got talking, build up a rapport. And at the last meeting, one of the young men asked the question, well, what happens now? And, there was an awkward silence for about 10, 15 seconds.
Right. Okay.
And I spontaneously said, come and see what we're doing in Atlanta. And I didn't even realize what I was saying until I left the room. and then I was asked the question, are you serious?
Yes.
And then the disappointment for me kicked in, because the assumption was that, Bola's here talking big, won't deliver.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, okay, great, but no, that's not me. Anyway, a year later, they were on a plane to Atlanta.
Wow.
And it wasn't until, because I flew out early. I flew out 2 days earlier to meet them at the airport when they arrived. So when I met them at the airport, that's when it hit home that actually it is happening. It's happened, and they're here. And when they got to Atlanta, my view was all I asked of these guys was that they find their purpose and that they relay the story to 5 other young black men that they can relate to. That was my ask, nothing else.
Right.
So the trip was organized with another young man in America called Von and Cozy, he himself is an architect.
Okay.
And he was the architect of the trip. He got an array of amazing self-made businessmen and women over a course of 6 days. And we visited, places like the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta.
Yeah.
The list was endless, but the uniqueness of it was that the guys just had to soak it all in and then try and reevaluate their own position when they got back.
Yes.
And it was a lot to take in. It was a lot to digest. They were overwhelmed all the way through. And thankfully, we all flew back to London in one piece. And it was life-changing, because you can see from the testimonials, if you've not seen them already on the videos, that the impact was made, and some of the changes had begun to manifest even before they left Atlanta. So it was all about trying to give them a different perspective, taking them out of Hackney and dropping them into Atlanta, and trying to get them to feel the buzz that I felt in 2000 when I first visited.
Okay.
And I think it worked. Largely, it was a success. So that was that. And like I said, it was a one-off. It was a gesture. I've been asked to do it again, and I'm not sure that I can, because it took a lot out of me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great experience.
But definitely, and that was an amazing thing. And to take 25 men to Atlanta, to give them that experience, that is an amazing thing to do. And well done for that, Bola.
Well, actually, of the 25 guys that were involved, I think 10 couldn't fly because of criminal background. So I only actually took 11.
All right, in the end.
But, for those that weren't able to fly, and that in itself was a learning curve for those guys.
Exactly.
Because, the learning was so sporadic and wide. It was just, well, okay, we can't fly. You got to come back and share your story. And that's what happened. But, on the whole, all of them have progressed in life in some way, shape or form. So it's had the right impact.
Yeah. All right. So on the topic of USA, how does Urbanis USA work? And so that is your organization, and that's the USA leg of your organization.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I'm a chartered quantity surveyor.
Yeah.
But in the UK, I don't actually practice as a chartered quantity surveyor.
Okay.
I practice as a construction manager. So I'm almost a contractor.
Right.
But at this tender age of 40 plus, I'm less inclined to be running around sites and more inclined to go back to where I was essentially 20 years ago when I came out and started consulting.
Right.
For clients and advising in my professional capacity. And that is exactly what I'm doing in Atlanta. Pretty much offering cost management advice to clients in the real estate sector. And that could be anything from tax concerns, disputes, new build, refurb,
Yeah.
innovation, sustainability, you name it. Anything conducive to cost or in relation to cost is something that I can advise on. And that's what I do in America under Urbanis CM.
Okay. Excellent. So you also became the founding role model for BTEG, which is Black Training Enterprise Group.
Yeah.
What service? So what services do BTEG offer?
Well, BTEG are a 25-year-old charity led by a lovely guy called Jeremy Crook, OBE.
Okay.
He himself has had his own journey as a young black man growing up in the UK.
All right.
He has a passion for black empowerment, and that could be anything from advising youngsters about not falling foul of the law to advising women on capacity building, skill sets, different careers. They cover all aspects of issues that concern BMEs.
Okay.
And he has, we built a relationship broadly around my work. He has a passion for construction himself.
Right.
And he recognizes the challenges that exist currently and historically. And he's keen to commit to other people who are also willing to try and make change sustainable. So we met literally on the back of my 2-year tenure at the EHRC as chair. And 2011, 2012, we got together and I think we did a couple of events together. And then he said to me, would you consider being a role model? Now, I'm not a fan of the term role model because I just don't think I am. I just think I do things on instinct and I'm just conscious of what I do and what I can do.
Right, okay.
He seems to think that he could grow it into a cohort of black men across the country and canvass and sell it as an initiative working predominantly in the interests or for the interests of young black men who statistically are proven to have the most challenging existence in the UK. So we did. We came up with an idea. He called it Roots to Success.
Okay.
And he recruited 30 black men across the country, predominantly in London, but across the country, with a nationwide aspiration to get into schools, colleges, and prisons to talk to and inspire, motivate, and uplift essentially black men, albeit the audiences are always mixed, about what life was like within and what life could be like beyond Her Majesty's pleasure.
Yeah. So I take it you've been to the schools, you've been to the prisons, and you've done some talks. Are there any things that have kind of stood out to you when you've been to either schools, prisons, and done your talks? Any special feedback that you've got from various groups that you've spoken to that has really hit a point for you?
Yeah, we've had good and bad. I'll admit it hasn't all been good. Right. There have been sessions where there was no control. It was just complete anarchy.
Right. Okay.
Guys didn't engage for whatever reason, which again was a learning point. It doesn't always. You don't always succeed at the first go.
No.
And every venue was different. Every advisory or administrative team had their own ways of doing things. They had a different ask. They didn't necessarily understand it. In some instances, what we were offering, but they were few and far between. The successes are many, and one in particular was with Hackney Community College, where I was asked to do a session on my own because we normally do it in 2 or 3s, where you have 2 or 3 role models turn up and do a session and share the pitch.
Yeah.
But I was asked to do this one on my own. And I was told that there were 20 plumbers all apprentices or training who wanted some advice on what it would be like to set up their own business or get a job as a plumber.
Okay.
I committed to doing the session. It lasted, I think, for 90 minutes. And at the end of 90 minutes, I had a room of 20 plus individuals. I think 3 were women or young women. And I had them referring to themselves as mechanical engineers
Oh, wow.
at the end of 90 minutes, because I wanted them to understand that being a plumber is a component of a wider role that you can occupy
Yeah.
as a mechanical services engineer. So, and the feedback by way of a report that I got back was probably, it was overwhelming to see and read the feedback. So positive, inspirational, blah, 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 blah. But it looked as though I touched every one of them in the room, which doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
But when it does
Yeah.
happen, it makes 90 minutes very, very worthwhile.
Yes. A beautiful
And
thing.
absolutely. And that's the thing. This work that I do, allied to my core business, is humbling. It makes you realize that actually we all have a duty to give back and turn around and advise. We just have to make the time.
Yep. I agree.
And that's what I challenge more people to do: make the time to make a difference.
Okay. Right. So diversity surveyors or diversity surveyors,
Yeah,
as it is spelt.
that's right.
Tell me about diversity surveyors. First of all, when was that launched?
Well, actually, there's a launch due to take place during Black History Month this year. So October this year is the official launch.
Well, plug it. Let us know about it.
Well, it's a joint venture between ourselves, known as Diversity Surveyors, and Diversity Surveyors actually is a network established to serve the needs, specific needs of BAME surveyors in the profession, albeit we are willing to engage with anyone who's interested.
Okay.
And I actually registered the domain name in 2006.
Right.
But in 2006, the world wasn't ready to have a discussion about diversity.
Okay.
So, timing is everything. Last year, I was approached by my own professional body, the Royal Institution, who said, Bola, please, can you consider setting up a network for BAME surveyors? Because we've now realized, after years of talking to yourself and others, that 1.2% of our professionally qualified members are BAME.
Yeah.
And for a 150-year-old profession, I think that is terrible.
Yeah.
But it's the reality.
So
setting up the network is a strategic move to address the imbalance. And from my perspective, it's an opportunity to give younger surveyors in particular a voice and a relevance. And so that's the overarching theme of Diversity Surveyors. And the launch was proposed by the RICS to take place during Black History Month. So
and that's the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors.
That's correct, RICS. Okay. Yeah. So I was as shocked as you were when they said, "Let's do it during Black." I'm like, okay, this is great.
Good. So if anyone's interested in diversity surveyors or interested in surveying that's listening to the show, is there any advice you can give, or are they able to contact you and your organisation?
Well, first of all, Diversity Surveyors is not mine. It's my gift to the profession. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone can join.
Yeah.
If they have an interest in surveying and a genuine interest, because we want to promote excellence in the profession. It's targeted at students, undergrads, postgrads, newly emerged graduates, and experienced professionals. And there is a website, Diverse City, and it's CITY on the back of the word diverse-surveyors.com.
Yeah.
But the idea is to demonstrate strategically where BAME surveyors exist on the planet. So the aspiration is to have a network in every major city on the planet. I've started with Atlanta as well as London.
Okay.
And we want one in every continent and every major city. That may include France, Germany, you name it. I'm not going to dictate how it moves, how it grows.
Yeah.
It's for the profession to do that. I've added my contribution, which will be London and Atlanta, and it's for the profession to make the routes and create the effort to establish those other networks that may need to suffice if there is demand in those areas, and I believe there will be, because it's been overwhelming so far.
All right, good stuff. In terms of diversity surveyors, there's a logo competition currently up and running, I'm told.
That's right. Yeah. That was just an idea by me. I thought, one of the ways that we could engage and get the message out there is to maybe just promote the fact that we are looking for ideas for the logo. And whilst it's predominantly targeted at surveyors, we've had offers from schools who want to participate. Yeah, because I've done work in schools, and some of the head teachers have become aware, and they said, "Look, Bola, would you mind if we ask some of our children to design a logo?" And I said, well, of course, it's all about the next generation. They should feel part of it, and I think it's a great idea. But yeah, there's a competition on at the moment. Submissions, closing date is 4th of July.
Okay.
And we'll make a decision, myself and 40 other members, and we'll hopefully have something ready for, we must have something ready for the launch in October. So yeah.
Okay, so if anyone wants to enter the competition, they can go to diversity-surveyors.com. All of these links will be on my show notes on my website, which is influenceandinspire.me. So if you need to get the details and you haven't caught them within this interview, please go to my website. And all that I'm left to say, Bola, is thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
And letting us know what you've been doing and how you've been influencing and inspiring other people. And all I can say is keep up the good work.
I'll try and do my bit. We've all got a duty, but yeah, someone has to keep the momentum going. And I only do what I can. There's much, much more to be done. And I would love to see many more people get involved and just, make a difference in someone else's life.
And just before you go, have you got a specific social media that you frequent a lot that you can just drop on this interview?
Well, I've been pushed 3 or 4 times this week, believe it or not, to start a blog.
All right, okay.
So I do have a blog on the Diversity Surveyors website.
Right.
But, I obviously have my own tweet on Urbanis, and we have a website for Urbanis. But other than that, no. But I think that's more than enough for me to capture and for others to observe what I'm doing. So I'll continue to use those mediums. It
is. And again, I'll add all your contact details to the show notes anyway.
Fantastic. Appreciate that.
All right. Thanks a lot, Bola. And
been my pleasure, Ryan.
Keep up the good work.
I'll try. Thanks a lot.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Influence and Inspire podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. See you next week.